So in this video, I want to talk about purchasing raw land and turning it into some kind of structure, whether it's a house, a building, a warehouse, whatever it might be. What can go wrong, what can go right, and the different pitfalls. I'm using this as an example. I'm on site at a location where I did an earlier video on a property that's going to be used for short-term rentals. This is a good case study of what can go wrong. The property behind me now has a home on it and a garage back there, but this used to be a fully wooded lot, and it looked like what was behind me, full of trees. When the people first purchased it, they thought, this is great, I'm gonna live in the woods. This property where the structure is was part of a 3-house subdivision. One of the lots was large. It was about an 18-19 acre parcel. And then there was 2 smaller parcels that made up this house. And then there's another lot that is actually behind here. When the homeowners purchased this particular lot, there was a second lot that was available. And we had conversations on whether they should purchase that. Now, when you buy property, one of my rules of thumb that I believe in, my grandfather taught me this, was that whenever you can control your neighbors or an adjacent piece of property and you have the means and ability to do it, by all means do it. In this case, we talked about purchasing the lot that was behind there and either being able to control what was built there or not build anything on it. Well, with things that happen in the economy, put it on the safe side, the decision was made not to do that. Well, in that decision not to do that, it's kind of started the ball rolling with a lot of unforeseen things that happened. The couple bought the property and we started to build. One of the things we ran into, which was unforeseen, was that the drain fields for the property were located about 450 feet away from the house, down a right-of-way. And typically, when that is the case, that means that there wasn't a perk, meaning that the water that flows through didn't flow through fast enough for this county municipality to grant having a septic system put in. And we're far enough away out in the country that we don't have public utilities. So this house was going to have a septic system. Looking at the septic system that was approved by the health department for this, it was a long ways away. So I started asking some questions and trying to look at it. Well, the engineer that originally subdivided it was no longer in the area and couldn't be contacted the engineering company, and they said, well, everything was fine, nothing to worry about. Usually when someone says there's nothing to worry about here, you might want to worry a little bit. When we first started digging the foundation for this house, we hit water, and probably the most water I've ever seen. I have a ton of documentation and videos on what we had to do just to get this house to be able to build on this lot. And when I mean water, we ended up having to, basically that whole entire house you see behind us there was an underground lake, and we had to bring in number 2 stones and 57s and create dry wells and pump off water for weeks at a time just to be able to get the foundation in this site. That extra expense was in the $40,000 to $50,000 range. That was completely unforeseen. Sometimes when you buy a raw piece of land, you're going to run into underground streams or springs. It could be rock. A lot of times in the mountains, they have to dynamite rock to put foundations in. I've been in areas where we've done things on the coast where we've had to, where the municipality would want you to put pilings in because of the sea level. And you can't necessarily put pilings in because if you were to drive pilings in the ground, you would shake the neighbor's house apart. So that was the beginning of what could go wrong in purchasing a lot. The next thing, the house is coming and we were putting in during that period of time of building this house. The lot had sold and a person had bought it and decided that they were going to develop that lot behind there. Let me walk over here, and what I'm going to show you is behind me, over top my shoulder, there's a pie-shaped triangular where it's all cleared out. The homeowner hired a person to build their house, and you're supposed to have a meeting with your local authorities, zoning, planning departments, and go over what and where your LOD, limit of disturbance areas are. That black fence you see is silt fence to stop the silt from running. You can put in what's called a construction entrance. If I walk over here, this here is what a construction entrance looks like. The lot behind me is what we call a flag lot. Now, a flag lot is just as pretty much of what you would imagine a flag being. That road itself should have been an easement to that property. The property that was subdivided behind us here, it was landlocked. It did not have an entrance, and it was not recorded of having an entrance. So the homeowner thought, they were all excited. They came in. They had a company that didn't necessarily know all the rules or have quite the experience. They come in and they decide that they're going to put their construction entrance in. Well, when they come in to put the construction entrance in, they put it in the wrong spot. And they cut out, I think it was 16 or 18 trees that belonged to the person who bought that lot. Now, that poses a lot of problems because, one, you don't have a legal easement to your property, and two, you just went in and cut out 18 trees. So kind of become an expert and real friendly with arborists pertaining to the value of what trees are. Now, during this whole process, we had conversations with the companies, both the tree company and the developer, that they were not in their right spot. So they decided that in their ultimate wisdom, they were going to cut these trees down after everybody else left. Well, we have cameras on our sites, so we can see activity. When we left that day, the chainsaw started after hours, and they cut off about 8:30 that night, and the result was 18 trees gone. Now let's walk over here and look. This here is a small tree, and if we look further, here's a little bigger tree. And if we look over here, there's another small tree. There's a bigger tree. There's another tree. I think you're getting the idea that there was quite a few trees. I could keep walking that way, and we can keep looking at how many trees there were. Well, each one of those trees have a value. And, well, just say that this all is going to cost somebody quite a bit of money, because you can't just trespass and cut down trees. And that's what happened here. So there's several ways how you determine what the value of those trees are, what kind of tree they are, how old they are, what the growth, and how you determine the age of the tree is the growth rings. You know, a tree grows so fast a year. Some years they grow faster than others, and they actually have rings inside the stump there. And the arborist comes out and counts them, finds out what the trees were, find out how many they were, and come up with a value of what it costs to replace those trees. Financially, I guess anything can be done, but you can't just replace 100-year-old trees and move them in here. Now, I have been a part of cases where we have moved trees that were over 100 years old. It's very, very expensive. So now we have to negotiate and figure out what we're going to associate those values at. My point is, we went from having a lot that was fully wooded to putting a house on, unseen conditions with the foundation, putting water in, and then we have the road that belongs to the homeowner, which the homeowner that bought that house back there thought he had access to, but didn't. So now he's got to work with the initial owner to figure out what the easement is worth and how much those trees are worth. The bad thing is that this property here, that was being developed is now not so secluded because we did not control the adjacent properties to it. And you can see how everything has changed. Well, I'm going to come up here and show you this thing here. This will give you an idea of where we are now. Caution, don't damage tree or its roots. The reason we have that is because we want to try to save every tree that we can. Because a lot of times you go into an area and you can see how much of that canopy is open. Sometimes trees will die when you cut trees around them because it changes the airflow. You don't have to touch the roots, you don't have to do anything else. Maybe it's the underground water disturbance for putting the house in. A lot of times the airflow around the trees will make them die and come down. This is something else I wanted to show you. If you look over my shoulder here and down this road, we'll take a little walk, but you can see that the septic, which is those green tanks, run all the way down this road. You'll see a white marker all the way at that end. So this is an indication, an indicator of when you look at plans that there was water issues that not necessarily were brought to light. Anytime you have to run a septic system far away from the main structure, and this was the only place in which it could become perked for a septic system, is a red flag that something had to be done to make that house a buildable location. You had the square footage to do it. As you can see, I'm still walking back here, and that white PVC sticking up is what the clean out is for the drain fields back here. And you can see it is a long way from where the house itself is. So, in closing, whenever buying raw land, do your homework. Look every piece of information, talk to locals, talk to neighbors, find somebody, whether it's a local builder, even a county inspector, someone that has local knowledge of an area. When you go to buy raw land, do your homework. Dot all your I's, cross all your T's. If you like the information, hit like, hit subscribe, send me some comments. I got a ton more information on the particulars and details of situations when buying properties and land and how to overcome them. See you on the next one.